Listen closely, for this is a story of a day the earth trembled in the halls of the civilized world. It was September 2009, New York City, the United Nations, a place built of glass and steel where men in expensive suits speak in polite lies. Pause. Increase volume slightly. Into this room swept a man who looked like he had just walked out of a desert sandstorm, Muammar Gaddafi. He didn't wear a tuxedo. He wore the brown robes of the Bedouin, and pinned to his chest was a map of Africa, a golden continent on a field of green. He was supposed to speak for 15 minutes. He stayed for nearly 2 hours. He stood at that podium and didn't thank them. Instead, he held up the UN Charter. He looked at it, then at them, and with the sound of dry thunder, he tore it. Rip. The room went silent. "This," he cried, "is not a charter of peace. It is a charter of the powerful over the weak." The lion had entered the glass house, and he was breaking the windows. The leaders shifted in their seats, but Gaddafi was just beginning. He began to speak of the white shadows that had haunted Africa for centuries. He spoke of the Berlin Conference, where men who had never tasted the water of the Nile sat with rulers and divided Africa like a piece of cake. "They did not just take our rubber, our diamonds, and our oil," he shouted. "They tried to take our spirit." He spoke of how African culture, the ancient bronzes, the sacred masks, had been packed into crates and shipped to museums in London and Berlin, while the owners were left in chains. He called for $7.7 trillion in reparations, not as a gift, but as a debt for the millions of lives lost in the Middle Passage. He looked at the Western leaders and said, "You owe Africa for the past, and you are still stealing from her in the present." Slot 3, The Dream of the Gold Dinar, 7:30 to 11:15. Tone, high energy, fast-paced, visionary. Use your hands to describe building something. But why did he want them to shake? Because he had a vision that terrified the banks of the North. Gaddafi leaned into the microphone, his eyes burning. "Africa," he declared, "must be won." He spoke of the United States of Africa. He didn't want 54 small nations begging for crumbs. He wanted one army to defend the soil, one passport to travel the plains, and one currency, the gold dinar. He wanted African oil to be traded for African gold, not paper printed in a foreign land. He mocked the aid that the West gave with one hand while snatching resources with the other. "Why," he asked, "does Africa have the most wealth but the poorest people? Because we are divided." He was preaching a gospel of sovereignty that made the masters. The speech ended not with applause, but with a stunned, fearful silence. The translators were shaking. The delegates were rushing for the exits. Gaddafi walked away, leaving the torn pieces of their rules scattered on the floor. He knew the cost. He knew that when you tell the world's masters that their time is up, they do not go quietly. Not long after, the skies over Libya filled with foreign planes, and the brother leader was gone. Final pause. Look your listeners in the eye. But listen to the wind today. The man is a ghost, but his words are a haunting melody. The United States of Africa is no longer just a speech. It is the hunger in the heart of every African who realizes that the borders drawn by others were meant to be cages, not homes. The lion is dead, but the roar is still vibrating in the soil. Would you like me to generate a powerful image of Gaddafi at that podium with the golden map of Africa to use as a visual aid for your listeners?